In a fancy restaurant in New York, a talented sous chef cooks the special for the day under the supervision of the chef. Her name's Alice. She's pretty and very skilled in the kitchen. Her dream is to be the chef of a restaurant one day, but to do that, she needs to learn and practice. She has been working for the fancy restaurant for a long time, and the chef is her boyfriend, Brett. He's also talented, but he tends to be self-absorbed and conservative in the kitchen. Whenever Alice wants to cook something different, to bring new dishes and flavors to the customers, he's unsupportive. He wants her to always cook the classic dishes on the restaurant's menu. Alice pleads for him to let her make the special that day by rereading a French classic. He lets her do her thing, but he warns her that it must be great because that day, they are going to have a special guest. Alice knows her dish tastes good and she's excited for the customers to try it. Brett doesn't taste it before sending it to the lounge, and that is a big mistake. A food critic is there to give her ratings for their restaurant, and he wants to be in her top 10. She orders Alice's special, and they all watch with bated breath as she tastes it. As soon as she chews the food, she starts having an allergic reaction and almost passes away. There was an ingredient in the dish that she couldn't eat, and Brett lectures Alice because she didn't know it. Alice is upset. She knows her dish was amazing, and Brett should have tasted it before. She also had no idea the critic was allergic, so she couldn't say it would make her feel bad. Brett tells Alice to go home after the accident, and she begrudgingly goes. Meanwhile, a rich heir to a hotel chain, Christian, arrives at his aunt's office. Christian is handsome and next in line when his aunt retires. His aunt, a beautiful woman named Danielle, wants to retire more than ever. The hotel chain came from her late husband, and after he passed away, she had to become the CEO. For years, she did her job amazingly well. The company grew and now they have hotels all over the world. She's getting older and tired of working. She wants to travel and see the world after working so hard. For that reason, she chooses Christian to be the next CEO. They have a great relationship. Danielle acts more like a mother to Christian because he lost his parents in an accident, and she raised him. Christian is grateful for all she has done for him, and he wants to retribute. The only issue is that he doesn't want to be the next CEO. Danielle tells Christian that she's planning a charity with a culinary competition, and she wants Christian to be one of the judges. He graduated as a chef from a fancy Swedish college, and Danielle thinks he's going to be great. At first, Christian isn't interested. When Danielle mentions inviting Alice to participate too, he changes his tune. Christian and Alice went to the same college and they dated for a while. When Alice moved to New York to work, they broke up. Christian could never forget her, though, and he frequently talks about her to Danielle. He tells his aunt he's going to think about it, but his mind is already made up. To see Alice again, he would do anything. A few days later, Brett receives an invitation to a big culinary event in New York, and Alice receives an invitation to the competition. Brett dismisses her invitation and asks her to come with him to his house because it's going to be more important. Alice gets annoyed by her boyfriend's behavior. He always puts her accomplishments down instead of encouraging her to follow her dreams. Without Brett's support, Alice goes to her friends to see what they think. They encourage her to go, no matter what Brett says. Alice also mentions that one of the judges is Christian, and her friends go crazy because they know all about him. Alice thinks it's funny, but she has no intention of having anything with Christian. After talking to her friends, Alice comes to a decision. She's tired of being under Brett or anyone else. She wants to be a chef in her own restaurant, and to do that, she has to leave Brett's shadow. She accepts the invitation. The competition is going to happen on the other side of the country, in Kansas City. Alice is really excited to spend some time away from the city, in the countryside, doing what she loves to do. She arrives at the hotel and is amazed by the opulence of the place. It's a very fancy hotel, and Alice receives a paid-for room with all the amenities she can imagine. The view from the hotel is incredible too, and as soon as she enters her room, she takes pictures. Later that day, there's a meeting with the other judges. Christian and Alice meet again after years, much to Christian's happiness. Alice is still as beautiful as always. In turn, Alice is surprised when she learns Christian is Danielle's nephew and he's very rich. She wonders why he never told her anything when they were dating, and he explains that he didn't want anyone to see him differently. She also asks him if he indicated her for the position, but he promises he didn't. His aunt knew who she was and went after her. Christian explains that he isn't working as a chef anymore and that he's going to inherit the hotels when his aunt retires. Alice tells him that she's a sous chef, and it's Christian's turn to be surprised. She's so talented and hardworking that he imagined she would be a chef by now. They continue talking for a few more moments before Christian has to leave to talk to his aunt. Alice watches him go and feels flattered that he stopped to talk to her. As for Christian, as soon as he approaches his aunt, he questions why he invited a sous chef to be a judge. His aunt explains that she knows Alice is talented and Christian can't forget her. She's meddling and Christian knows it. Danielle only wants him to be happy and she thinks Alice may be the answer for that. After the party, Alice sends Brett a message but he doesn't reply or call her to see how she is. She tells her friends about Christian and they are excited. They don't like Brett, they think he's too full of himself and prevents Alice from being the star she is. Still, Alice likes him and they have been together for some time. Later in the evening, Brett finally calls. He doesn't ask how Alice is, he only talks about how great his event is and how happy he is. Alice gets annoyed quickly with his attitude. Being away from him is showing her that she isn't as happy as she thought with him. Seeing Christian again didn't help. The day of the competition arrives and Alice stands proudly with the other judges. The competition consists of 3 chefs and 3 dishes they have to cook to earn points. One of the chefs is called Raphael, and Danielle is interested in him. While tasting the dishes, Alice has fun commenting with Christian, and it reminds her of their time together in college. They used to have a lot of fun together back then. On the second day of the competition, they have to go to a farm, and Christian offers Alice a ride. Not only that, but while the competitors were planning their dishes, he prepared a picnic for them. They go to a hill that has a beautiful view of the nature around them. Alice feels happy and peaceful in a way she hasn't for a long time. Living in the city has its downsides, and not being in nature is one of them. She's glad that Christian took the time to surprise her like that. As they eat and drink wine, they talk about their life together in college. They had great chemistry and a good relationship, but when Alice came back to New York, they broke up. Christian wasn't in a good place back then because he lost his parents and felt depressed. That's the reason why he never went after Alice. When he found his footing again, it was too late. Alice thinks everything worked out the way it should. She was happy in New York, with her job as sous chef, and she hoped one day soon she would be a chef to cook whatever she wanted. Christian isn't as happy. He regrets letting her go. After they broke up, his life became a mess, and even now he doesn't know what to do concerning his aunt. Meanwhile, Danielle goes to the kitchen to grab some food and meets Raphael. He's a tall, French man, and cooking is his passion. Danielle is taken by him and the way he talks about food. She is as passionate about her job. When she tells him she's retiring, he's confused because it's obvious she enjoys what she does. Danielle explains that she wants to travel and have the life she never had the chance to. Raphael doesn't think she has to give up her career to do that. The next part of the competition starts, and this time, Alice and Christian disagree on the choice. In the end, Alice's choice wins and Raphael gets the points. Instead of being bitter about it, Christian compliments Alice and says she's a good cook. He also invites her to go out with him, though he doesn't say where to. They go to a restaurant that is finished, but not opened. Alice loves the place and wonders who it belongs to. Christian lies and says it belongs to a friend of his, but it's his. He built the restaurant before he got the news he was going to replace Danielle, and he wanted someone to cook there. He knows how to cook, but he isn't as talented as Alice at it. They cook together and have a lot of fun. Alice helps Christian when she sees him struggling with something, and his heart melts whenever she does it. When they finish, they sit to eat and talk a bit more. Christian compliments Alice's food and how passionate she is about cooking. He wonders how she doesn't have her own restaurant. Alice laughs and explains that was never her plan. She doesn't want to own a restaurant and has to manage it. She only wants to be the chef at a restaurant. Once again, Alice asks why he gave up cooking, and he tells the story of how Danielle helped him out. He doesn't want to disappoint her, and she deserves to retire and get on with her life. Alice is surprised by his selflessness. After all, he is doing something he dislikes because of his aunt. His dream, though, is to open his restaurant and manage it. After some time talking, Christian finally admits the restaurant is his. It's surprising to Alice, even more so when he says that he would want her to be the chef at his restaurant if it was working. Alice thinks he shouldn't give up his dream, and that thought stays in Christian's head. When the dinner is over, Christian takes Alice back to the hotel and they go their separate ways. Alice gets ready to go out in her room, and when she's leaving, Christian sees her and follows her to the hotel roof. The best view of the city is there. Christian catches Alice watching the city and approaches. Alice tells him that the view is one of the perks of living in a small city. He agrees. He wouldn't move from Kansas City, no matter what. He loves the small city and all the comforts that come with it. While talking, they get closer and are almost kissing when Danielle's assistant interrupts. Danielle wants to see Christian. It's their last meeting before the final round of the competition, and Danielle tells Christian she's going to announce the news she's retiring on the last day. Christian feels his soul leaving his body. He doesn't want to be CEO of the hotel chain. He wants to have his restaurant with Alcee as a chef. Danielle is so happy about retiring, though, that he can't help but be quiet, especially not when Danielle tells him how proud she is of him. He could never disappoint her like that. During the last round of the competition, Alice offers to introduce chefs who would be interested in working with Christian, but he silences her. He's afraid Danielle is going to overhear her because she's behind them. Raphael wins again, and Alice finds out that she has to cook with the other judges for the winner and the participants. While she's freaking out with Christian and the other judge, Danielle approaches and asks Alice if she heard the good news. Alice is confused, even more when Danielle tells her that Christian is going to be the next CEO. She congratulates him, albeit stiffly because she knows it's not what he wants. The situation becomes weirder when Brett suddenly appears at the hotel to surprise Alice. Christian had no idea she had a boyfriend and he feels as if she led him on. Alice explains that she wasn't trying to hide it, it just never came up in their conversation. Christian feels as if his life is crumbling beneath his feet. He loves Alice and he thought they could get to know each other again, maybe have another relationship. Not only that, but when he leaves Alice with Brett, he meets his aunt to sign the contract of the company. Danielle was expecting him to be happier and more excited about replacing her. After all, he never said anything about not wanting it. Instead, Christian is unhappy. When she questions why he looks morose, he thinks about telling her the truth. Danielle is so glad to be retired that Christian feels bad. He tells her about Alice and Danielle thinks he should tell her how he feels. He explains that she has a boyfriend, but Danielle doesn't care about it. She thinks Alice and Christian were made to be together. He only needs to fight for what he wants. Later on, Danielle goes to talk to Raphael again, and they talk about their careers. There's nothing in the world that makes Raphael happier than making food. Danielle talks about her role as CEO with pride and love. She also enjoyed working for the hotel chain. Raphael questions why she's giving up on her career if she likes it so much, and Danielle doesn't know what to answer. She thinks it's the natural path to follow, and that she will finally have time to enjoy things in life that she couldn't before. Raphael disagrees that she needs to give up her job to enjoy things. She should just find a balance between work and pleasure. His thought makes Danielle question her decision for a moment, but there's no point in wondering if she did the right thing. Christian already signed the contract. On the last day of the competition, Alice goes out with Brett to a farm. She wants to collect the best ingredients to cook for the charity that day. Brett complains the entire time he's with her. He doesn't understand why she's picking up fresh fruits when she could just go to a supermarket. Alice finds him annoying, but she's used to it. After a few moments, Brett decides to tell Alice the reason he's really there. He received a job opportunity to become a branch supervisor, and he wants Alice to work as a chef at the restaurant. Alice is shocked that he indicated her to be the chef. Her shock quickly turns into excitement because that's all she ever wanted, to be a chef and take care of a restaurant. She thinks she's finally going to have the opportunity to show off her talents, creating new dishes and putting her signature in classics. When she tells Brett that, he informs her that he's going to continue supervising her dishes, and that the corporation wants them to stick to the menu. She won't be able to create anything, just follow recipes. That puts a damper on things for Alice, and she quickly loses her excitement. Nothing is going to change. Brett is still going to be in charge of her and what she cooks, and she won't be able to do what she wants. Brett leaves her to go back to the hotel, and Alice has a moment to think. She's confused about what she needs to do. She knows she isn't going to be happy working for Brett again. He's too conservative for her tastes, never letting her cook using her creativity. If she accepts the position, she's going to be miserable. Alice and Christian meet again before they start cooking for the guests. Christian tells her that he's going to sell the restaurant and dedicate himself to the company. He thinks some dreams aren't worth following. Alice feels sad for him because she knows it isn't what he wants. She doesn't understand why he doesn't tell his aunt the truth about his feelings. Before they start cooking, Brett takes Alice to the kitchen and wishes her good luck. He seems smug about something, and Alice tells him that she didn't accept his offer. He smugly says that she will, he's sure of it. He knows Alice is talented, but she also rarely leaves her comfort zone. It's easy for him to manipulate her to do what he wants, and he expects she's going to come back to him and the restaurant. Alice isn't convinced. She wonders what he's going to do, and he replies he's going to his bedroom to watch some TV. She suddenly realizes that Brett is boring and predictable. He's nothing like Christian, who in a matter of days surprised her more than once. Alice starts cooking with the help of Christian and the other judge. Christian is surprised to see a head chef patch on her chef's coat, and he questions her about it. Alice explains that she got a promotion, that there's going to be a new restaurant, and she's going to be the chef. Christian does not look happy. He already knew Alice was going to go back to New York, especially after finding out she had a boyfriend, but seeing her clothes makes it more real. He feels sad that they are going to say goodbye again. This time probably the last. He regrets missing his chance with her in the past and realizes that he won't ever have another opportunity again. He congratulates her with a hug that both of them relish without saying anything. Alice is also having conflicting feelings about Christian and Brett. She has no idea what she's going to choose. At least they have some time to spend together, so that makes them feel slightly better. They have great chemistry in the kitchen. They make delicious dishes, and Christian is always willing to try Alice's food. He compliments her whenever he can, and gives his honest opinion when it's called for. It's refreshing for Alice, who's used to always doing things by herself. Brett rarely compliments her cooking or her accomplishments, so it's good to know someone appreciates her. Alice decides to use the same recipe she used in her restaurant, and Christian loves it. He's amazed by her talent, and how she can turn everything into delicious dishes. Alice tells him that they did it together, he helped her too, and Christian decides to confess his feelings to her right at that moment. He doesn't care if she's going to reject him. He only wants to take it off his chest. Before he can say anything, they are interrupted because they need to serve the dishes. Alice feels sad that he couldn't say what he was planning to do. Deep down, she felt he was going to say something about his feelings. At that moment, she knew she would have chosen him if he did. She liked Brett enough, but the connection she had with Christian was different. He knew her in a way few people did. He admired her, enjoyed spending time with her, and took her seriously. Meanwhile, Danielle is sitting next to Raphael, waiting for the food. He wonders if she's going to make her retirement announcement, and she nods. Raphael looks disappointed and Danielle notices. She wonders why he disapproves of her ideas, but he doesn't say anything. He wants her to figure out what she wants. Christian shows up and interrupts their conversation. He asks to talk privately to Danielle and finally admits that he doesn't want to work as CEO. He feels immensely honored that she chose him to replace her, but it's her dream, not his. Christian finally admits that his dream is to have his own restaurant and do what he loves doing. He feels sorry he's letting her down because she deserves retirement, but there's nothing he can do anymore. He isn't willing to give up on his dreams, not after he realized that he lost Alice for exactly that same reason. He was miserable, and he didn't want that for the rest of his life. Danielle is a bit upset that he waited so long to tell her, but it works well. What Raphael told her stuck to her mind and she was already missing work. Dinner is served and everyone loves the food. Alice's cooking is impressive and delicious. When it's time for the dish that made a critic go to the hospital, it's the most praised dish of the evening. Brett thinks people are overreacting, but he knows it's good because he tasted it. He just can't accept that he made a mistake when he lectured Alice at the beginning. He's very proud of himself, and he doesn't want her to have all the thunder. Whenever someone compliments the dish, he starts arguing and saying that it isn't that good. He even goes on to say that Alice should have made a steak with potatoes because that's what people really liked. Raphael disagrees with him and says that Alice's cooking is great, especially the dish she made. The other food critic even asks for the recipe to put on her website, which is very flattering for Alice. Brett offends everyone when he says that the people eating don't know anything about food, and Alice finally had enough of his attitude. It's obvious he's jealous of her and her success. It's clear to her that he will never support her. She asks to talk privately to him, and when they are alone, she voices her honest opinion of him. She tells him that she's tired of him trying to make her do what he wants all the time and never letting her be herself. He wants her to work like a robot, making recipes that are unoriginal and boring. She declines his proposal to be a chef and breaks up with him. Brett leaves saying that she's going to regret the decision, but if she knows one thing, it's that she chose right. Back at the dinner, Danielle announces that she isn't going to retire because she's not ready to leave her job. She loves doing it and will continue to do so, much to Christian's relief. Now that nothing is stopping him from going after what he wants, he goes after Alice. He tells her that he wants to make her happy and that they should work together. Alice accepts right away and they finally kiss after years apart. Months after the charity competition, Alice is working with Christian at his restaurant as a chef. She has never been happier with the way her life went. She's happy with the love of her life, and she got the job she deserved. Christian also made his dreams come true, and it was all thanks to his aunt and her tendency to meddle. Danielle and Raphael also ended up together, traveling around the world whenever they have the opportunity, and living their best life.